Welcome to the Insights in Business Show presented by the Campbell River District Chamber of Commerce and Shaw Television. I'm Corby Lam, the Campbell River Board Chair and the host of today's show, which is Innovation and Business Export segment in our series of shows here at Shaw Television. Today we'll take a detailed look at three companies based in Campbell River playing a critical role in the Campbell River economy. These three companies, Sealand Aviation, Timar Industries, and York Machine, have put Campbell River on the world map through their innovation and perseverance in their respective fields. We're very grateful that the owners have taken time from their businesses today to join us. So I'd like to start off today with Bill Alder, founder of Sealand Aviation. And Bill, maybe just tell us a little bit about your business and how it operates.
Just briefly, we're an aviation company, just about anything aviation. We have a maintenance facility that's Sealand Aviation proper. We do aircraft maintenance, repair, overhaul, modification, both at the airport and at the Tyee Spit. And then we have our manufacturing company, Sealand Aerospace. And right now we have a contract with Viking Air. We manufacture parts for the new Twin Otter that Viking Air is building. And then we have Sealand Flight, which is just getting ramped up into flight training and going to expand more and more in that direction.
So you've got your hands full, that's for sure.
We're busy.
And next we have Dennis Cambrey from York Machine Limited. Dennis, maybe tell us a little bit about your business.
Sure. We've got two facets here. We have a York Machine Shop, which makes custom parts for these gentlemen here and customers in logging, mining, aquaculture, all over Pacific Northwest. And the other side of the business is the York Portable Machine Tools, is a series of portable machine tools we sell all over the world. We developed them here in the Campbell River area to service our local logging companies, and then found markets everywhere. We've got machines from Antarctica to the Arctic, all around the world.
Oh, that's impressive. And George, from Timar Industries?
Yeah, well, Timar has a long history in service, and we did a lot of repair work and rebuilding of machinery, mostly logging machinery over the years. And we've morphed into a manufacturer, so we've designed and build grapple yarders, which are used in logging. They're big, high capital cost machines. We also produce a line of attachments that we sell to distributors of machinery, like to Caterpillar or to whoever. And we sell those both in Canada and the United States. We also export to New Zealand quite a bit. So we're involved in all three countries.
Oh, good. So welcome, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have you all here today. And what we'd like to do is just learn from you sort of how you turned to business from where you were, and I'm familiar with all your businesses, and from where you were into a business that's basically a leader in its class around the world. And it's a pretty major accomplishment, and something that I think a lot of people aren't familiar that actually exists in Campbell River. So given all the service in the somewhat different sectors of the industry that you deal with, I want not only to ask you questions about your specific business, but just some general business questions around, how did you survive the downturns and things like that. And George, I know from knowing you for many years, it hasn't been an easy task, and I'm sure it hasn't been for anybody here. So for a bit of background, let's start with how you got started in your business and what is your core business, and Bill, we'll start with you.
I came to Campbell River in 1979, sort of looking for a restart. And at that time, I think everybody here is in the same situation, the logging industry, which is booming. And as far as airplanes were concerned, there were more airplanes here than I'd ever seen in one place at one time. And every truck logger, road builder, Jippo logger, small logging company had 2 or 3 airplanes, and most of them were going to Vancouver for servicing. So, bingo, there's an opportunity, and that's basically where I started.
Yeah, there was a lot of seaplanes in those days for sure.
Yeah.
I think it was one of the largest seaplane bases in the world, wasn't it, at one point?
That's what they called it, the largest in the world.
Yeah. And Dennis, how about you? So what got you started off? And
well, I came up here in 1986 into Campbell River, and I was the shop manager of a machine shop here in town. And Ron York had started York Machine, and he invited me to allow him to retire. And so I took him up on that. But we had to fly into camps on Bill's planes, into logging camps to repair equipment. And so we were really limited to the weight that we could carry on a plane. In the old days, I used to do a lot of it because I was the skinniest guy in the shop, and we could take more tools if I went. But that's where it developed. There was no tools around that were light enough to get on a float plane. There was heavy hydraulic machines that were available, but nothing that we needed. So we built our own machine. And in those days, I wasn't smart enough to know that, this is a golden opportunity. I just built a machine to make my life easier. But then it was actually Finning, just 2 blocks away from us, that said, maybe we'd like one of those too, please. And then all of a sudden, the little light went off, and we started selling them. And it's been going crazy ever since. Yeah, they go everywhere, all over the earth.
I know I was running equipment one time when we had to bore a boom, and it was just a joy to have the line borer that you were developing at the time, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Made things a lot easier, especially when you're out there with the rain running down your neck.
Exactly it, yeah, exactly. And that's what I tell a lot of people too. It's easier for us to develop new machines. We started with the line boring, and it's grown into all kinds of portable machine tools. Everything we do is portable. It goes on site to repair the machine on site there. But if we develop something, I give it to my guys. Joe and Daryl will go out in the bush and try to use it, and they'll come back and say, hey, you didn't do this one very good, boss. We should tweak this and tweak this. So we actually develop the machines here ourselves. And then once my guys are happy with them, then I come offer them to our sales staff, and they get busy selling them everywhere.
Good
so
for you.
cool, yeah.
And George, when people were starting to quit producing equipment, you decided to step into the fray and get going with it.
Yeah, well, we had a long history of doing equipment rebuilding, and and during that time we had developed an engineering department. And about 8 or 9 years ago, I was talking to the fellows in our engineering department, and I said we should start to work on developing a new machine because we saw an emerging market for it, and this was due to the age of the existing fleet on the coast. They're just getting older and older and older. And B, that these guys had huge experience. Ed Hughes and Jim Mantle were the developers of much of the equipment that had been used, the engineers that designed them. And if we didn't do it before everybody retired, then I said, are we going to get this done? So we started, and then a customer decided he liked what we were doing, and he ordered one, and then we built it, and here we are.
Good for you. And what made each one of you decide to keep your business located in Campbell River, Bill?
That's pretty simple. It's a great place to live.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's got everything that I ever wanted, and of course at the time when I started it had lots of airplanes, and that's basically my passion. It's
and I
airplanes,
would
period.
think too that your proximity to the airport was pretty easy too compared to some other places where you might have worked.
Well, when we started on the Spit at the freshwater
right,
marina, and
yeah.
that's where we got our start. We didn't move to the airport until 2002, 2003. And that was basically because of the way everything changed. When, like I say, in the 79, early 80s, there were lots of airplanes, but basically every day since then, or every year since then, there have been fewer airplanes in Campbell River. So we had to either get smaller, stay on the Spit, or diversify, go for something else. And we chose to keep going. So.
And Dennis?
The same thing. We came here, the work was here, Campbell River used to service all the logging camps from Nanaimo to the Queen Charlottes. And that's what we did. We made parts for these people. We went in and serviced their equipment. We did all that sort of stuff. So that's where the machine development came. But it's heaven on earth. I've traveled all over this earth, and this is the best place, bar none, that I've ever found. And it cost me a little extra to live here. You got to bring, all my raw materials come from Vancouver, so I'm paying a truck and a ferry fare to get it here. And all our finished goods have to leave the island because there's not enough customers here, but it's well worth it as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, that's good. George,
I'd agree with both of these gentlemen. You can't find a better place to live. Yeah. So I was asked that same question by some customers that we had from New Zealand that were up here, and I took them out on my boat fishing. And then when I was done, I says, "Did that answer your question?" And they went, "We get it."
Must have been a good day fishing.
Well, it was a beautiful day. How well did we do fishing? Yeah, not bad, but it was a beautiful day.
And what are some of your biggest challenges, especially with all of you being in the export business?
Well, as Dennis said, we live on an island.
Yeah.
And that's always a challenge, and there's always a cost related to it. Perhaps in some respects luckier than these guys because most of the airplanes we work on are portable. They can fly in and fly out. Having said that, a lot of them don't. We get airplanes shipped to us from Australia or Fiji, they come in containers. And that is a bit of a challenge because it increases the cost to get the airplanes here and to get them back. That's probably our biggest challenge because of where we live. And of course the other is obviously people.
Yeah.
Hiring people.
And do you find that getting qualified people, is Campbell River an asset to that? Because I know in my business, certainly it is.
Not really. In our industry, there's a huge problem with getting qualified people, period. We have an advantage here with the local college because they run an aviation program. And We hired out of that program every year from the day they started until last year we didn't have the opportunity. Things have changed a bit at the college and it's become a bit more challenging. The hiring people, if we found that if we can hire people that have lived here, go to college here and come to work for us, they don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
They stay. And that's been a huge bonus for us.
And how about you, Dennis?
Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
I've had over the years, I think, a couple of guys, I can think 2 of them at the shop right now, that came to Vancouver Island from Ontario just on vacation in the summertime, and they'd knock on the door and we're on holidays and we don't want to go home. What can you do for me, And both of them were ticketed journeymen and we took them and they're still there today. This is 10, 12 years later. But otherwise I've learned over the years, we used to run ads all across the country trying to find experienced machinists and there was no success there at all. We had a few come and town's too small or whatever and they disappear again. Local kids, more than half my crew served their apprenticeship at our shop. So we get kids that grew up here, married their high school sweetheart, get a big mortgage, whatever you have to do, but now I got you sort of thing, know? And they enjoy it. There's no adaptation required. They're already here. We just have to give them a reason to stay.
Well, and doing it that way gives you some way to train somebody to what you want to see too,
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Yeah, so
absolutely.
It's really good.
Yeah, the apprenticeship program is big for us. We got 3 apprentices right now, and it's usually we're at 2 or 3 almost all the time.
Oh, that's good. And George?
Yeah, ditto. It's exactly the same. I mean, the challenge in Campbell River is the fact that the location is inconvenient in some ways, but we also have a little bit lower cost than they do in some areas like in Vancouver. Just the cost of real estate is prohibitive, right? I don't know that we could afford to pay the rent on our shop down there, if it was located there.
Yeah.
So we've done the same thing that Dennis talked about. We train in every part, every facet of our business. We have apprentices, we have young engineers out of school that come as EITs, and they've all stayed. We've trained accountants. We've just trained people. You treat them well, and they like to work there, and they like the lifestyle here, and they stay and are quite happy. We have very low turnover. Our seniority list, I was looking at it the other day. There's a lot of people that have been working for us for a long, long time. So
There's a lot to be said for that, that's for sure. So it speaks to the efforts you've put into building sort of a family-run operation.
I would agree with that, but I also think that the lifestyle of Campbell River has a part to play in that.
Yeah, that's good to know. And when you look at the future of your business, we were talking out in the hall before we started that, we're all sort of getting a little grayer every day. And what's the future look like for your business, do you think, as far as opportunity and then, a legacy sort of thing?
So I don't think my business is going to change that much. I mean, we have a lot of opportunities in the manufacturing end because of our relationship with Viking Air. They're going to start manufacturing the CL215 and still the Twin Otter stuff. We have connections in Europe. We're looking at, because of the Airbus or Canada buying the Airbus aircraft for the search and rescue airplane, there's an offset there, and it looks like we're going to pick up some work on the offset. So,
okay,
we're not going anywhere. We'll be here for a long time.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bill. And on that note, we'll take a brief break, and we'll come back and continue on with Dennis here in a minute. Thank you. Welcome back to Insights in Business, the Campbell River Chamber of Commerce business show. I'm Corby Lam, your host, and today we're talking to Bill Alder, Dennis Cambrey, and George Lambert, 3 local businessmen. And when we left off before the break, we were just asking some questions around sort of what does your business, what's the future look for your business in Campbell River, look like in Campbell River, and do you see like your succession plans and things like that? And Dennis, we left off with you, so maybe just to give it from your point of view.
Sure. I can't see any reason why it would ever leave. There's lots of work. The farther around the world I get, the more work we find. Customers are calling us now about projects we'd never even thought of before. There's no reason for it to ever leave Campbell River, I don't think.
Yeah, and I find in my business that you're only a few hours from anywhere on an airplane. There's pretty convenient connections if you want to go places.
Yeah,
So
that's one thing.
central,
Whoever
really.
takes over is going to have to like to travel, that's for sure. I've seen more of the world than I ever would have believed I've seen, it's part of the game, that's all.
And George, how about you?
yeah, same thing. We've developed an export market, so we're on an airplane an awful lot. My son's down in New Zealand right now as we speak. I think the future looks quite good for our business. We have developed some really good technology and some good equipment, and we're going to continue to do that. So as far as succession goes, I've involved my son in the business and 2 other younger people in the company, and they're starting to take over the operational side of the business. And it's been a long process, but we have a succession plan, and we're working on it, and it's going pretty well. So I think the future looks, not without the challenges that are going to come on, Corby, but I think the future looks pretty good.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that, you know, we talked to a lot of the chamber members about a succession, and you know, we were talking earlier that it's quite an involved process. And has that been your experience? I know it's been mine.
I've been working on this for about 7 years, and I was telling you outside that Joe Grist, the dentist, told me that it takes a long time to do, and he was right. Yes, it's a long process, and it's not something you should try and rush, because young people, if they're going to run a company, they need to learn how to do that, and it's, you know, you need to do it, learn by doing, but then they need guidance and help while you're learning. So it is a long process, and it takes some time to do. You got to coach people through it.
And make the business available to them, for sure.
And make business available to them. Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
Good point. And how do you find the new North Island College Skills and Training Center that's going to be built? Do you think that'll help your business, Bill?
It should. It should help us a lot. As I mentioned before, we've had a good relationship with the college ever since the aviation program started there. It's changed a little bit in the last couple of years, and we're going to have to work on getting it back on track for the same reasons that I said. If local kids go to the college, come to work for us, they stay, and they're really, really good. And so we don't, I don't know how it affects these other trades as far as providing personnel for them, but it works very, very well for us.
And Dennis, how about you?
Not so well. The issue for us is machinists, right now, for the last 30 years, they've been going to BCIT for their training. And so as an apprentice, they come and work for me for 11 months, and they're down to school for 5 or 6 weeks, even 7 weeks now, depending on what part of the course they're in. But the machines are too expensive. And so it's hard to put machines in a smaller town. You know, they would have to put at least $1 million, $2 million worth of equipment in a school to do any kind of training at all. And so right now it's centered down in BCIT in Vancouver, and they do have some training up in Prince George as well. But I can't see it ever happening in little towns up and down islands and up in the interior of the province at all. So not a big deal for us. We're trying to find people. I encourage them right from day one. You got to plan that you're going to spend 6 weeks in Vancouver, and it's going to cost you some money here. You know, this is part of your apprenticeship that you got to plan for as well.
And do you just go with apprenticeship programs that are already in place, or do you do training in your facility, and does that impair your ability to be productive and stuff when you're?
No, it's a necessary evil, if you want to think of it that way. You know, I try to, like I say, I've got 3 apprentices right now, so they're in various stages of their apprenticeship. You know, I can't have a whole bunch of rookies.
Yeah, true
But
enough.
there's rookie jobs that come in the shop. You know, I've got a job to drill a hole in 20 plates. Well, that's a perfect job for an apprentice, and he does that kind of work for a little while, and then he moves up to more complex stuff as his training progresses. So it's all hands-on training. He's running tools every day, all day, and then they go to school for the theory part of it. And so the idea is that you take all the theory in school, you write your exams, you come back and work for 11 months and put it back into practice, and then back to school again. At the end of the thing, you write your exam. It's an interprovincial exam, so once you get your ticket, you're good for anywhere in Canada. You could take your trade. But Campbell River keeps them, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah.
And George, your business is fairly complex. You build equipment and like machines, like your grapple yarder and stuff. And how do you find like training people out in the field, or they have to have some kind of qualifications before you take them on and sort of get them into a position where they take training?
Well, sure. We've got various levels of training too. We have 3 young engineers. They've all graduated from UBC and School of Engineering and mechanical engineers, and they're all at different stages. And then they have to serve what's called an EIT, or engineer in training, under a licensed engineer, and that takes quite a bit of time, and then write their ticket. So they're all at a little bit different stage of that process. And we need to do that because that's a big training process. Like Dennis, we can't get machinists from North Island College because they don't have that program, so we are in exactly the same boat there. But like Bill, the welders and the mechanics, North Island College has produced probably all of our apprentices, and that's been very, very helpful. So, you know, it's kind of a mixed bag with us about whether we, you know, rely on North Island College or not. About 50-50, I'd say.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah.
And how about like skilled workers? I know in every industry right now it's a problem. And Bill, how do you find getting skilled workers, like with any kind of experience?
It's a very, very challenging situation right now
bad.
in our industry. It was a problem that was identified probably 20 years ago, and nobody did anything about it. And now we've got a huge gap.
Yeah.
And we just can't get skilled people anymore. So we have to rely on colleges, we have to rely on people off the street, bring them in and train them, and we do lots of in-house training. Obviously, the college has provided us good structures people, but the mechanics, for the mechanical aspect of what we do, are the people that are hard to find. Ironically, that shortage has been good for our business, in that a lot of small shops that can't get people, or people are retiring out of the business, close their doors, and we have more business coming our way.
Yeah.
And we found a lot of that out of Alaska. They're having a terrible time up there.
I'll bet.
And we get a huge amount of aircraft out of Alaska to work on.
Yeah, well, all the same type of planes you service here are basically the backbone of Alaska, right?
Yeah.
And Dennis, how about you? Do you find that you can get experienced people to come to Campbell River? Or same thing, you've got to sort of build them
there
in-house?
aren't any, yeah.
Yeah.
It's extremely difficult. If anybody comes, we had one guy come, he was getting divorced. And so, okay, I'm leaving Vancouver. It's too small for my wife and I, or my ex and I, so he moved to Campbell River. And he didn't stay very long, but it's almost impossible. It was something, like I said, I tried years ago, advertising everywhere, tried everything we could to recruit people. And I finally just threw in the towel and said, no, we'll just train our own here. And so, I've got a good relationship with the high schools here in Courtenay. So they let me know if there's a young guy coming up that wants to get into this thing and likes to get his hands dirty and's got a flair for it. And I've hired a couple right out of high school.
Oh, that's good.
Yep, started their apprenticeship and away they go.
And can you do the same thing, George, in your shop?
Yep, we do the same thing. Have we been able to attract skilled people that are ready to work from? Yes, but very, very rarely.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So we got 55 people, and I bet you could count the people that came in ready to go. It's been train. And, but the same thing as Bill, once you do, they tend to stay. And that's a good thing, right?
Well, I think it's a testament to what all three of you do, too, and the attitude that you have, in your companies. You make sure that people feel included, and the ability to train people is a gift, really.
Well, the most valuable asset that any company's got is its people.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people say that, but, you really need to reflect on that every day, because you can go get another piece of equipment. It's quite easy to bolt it to the floor, but the person who's going to make that thing sing and talk, that's your asset right there. And so, sometimes you have to accommodate that and make things work for people in the workplace, but it is generally worth it.
And now that all three of you are in the global market, I would imagine that's where you want to stay. Billy, do you plan on seeing an increase in your sort of global expansion in your company?
Absolutely. Right now, probably 10% of our business is Vancouver Island.
Wow.
60% of it is U.S., and the rest is international.
And do you find any complications with that, being in Campbell River, or can you make it all work from here?
As I explained earlier, sometimes, if you're shipping a wrecked airplane around, sometimes it's challenging. We go and ferry a lot of aircraft ourselves here. It can be challenging at times.
And Dennis, how about you?
Well, when I first started, we had a 4-man machine shop, and all our customers were in Campbell River, but now there's 40 people there. And so those other 36 are servicing the rest of the world, is what it amounts to, really.
Wow.
So, Campbell River is a very small part, very important part of what we do. This is our roots here, sort of thing. And I've had a few guys say, "Oh, you're gonna move this way and just do this export stuff." And I said, "No, the local market's been good to me for 30 years now. So we're not leaving it. But it's not. I can't grow it here based on the local market only. There's less pulp mills now than there was before.
Yeah, true
There's
enough.
less everything than there was
Sawmills.
before. Sawmills are gone. Yeah. So that shrinks. So that forces us to look a little wider.
And George, you've branched into New Zealand now. You've got some equipment down there. Where else do you see that you could probably go to in the future?
So New Zealand represents about basically 50% of our market for the big machinery at this point in history. But the U.S. is 65% of our attachment business. So like both these gentlemen, we do business here, but it's less than a third of our overall production is actually happening right here. So, and we have distributors that sell our product throughout the interior of BC, which is Canada, but it's not on Vancouver Island. So, export is a very big part of our business.
Well, that's good. And what does the success look like for you, Bill? If you get your company's built, you decide to, you get a succession plan in place and things like that, and the legacy, is that your aspect now that you're most?
Basically, that's it. Yeah. I mean, we've been quite involved in trying to get teenagers into aviation and just trying to promote aviation in general, and spent a lot of time making the community aware of aviation. which surprisingly enough, they aren't, you know, considering the considerable history with aviation in Campbell River. So that's kind of my legacy that I'm looking forward to, is making sure that aviation survives in our community.
Maybe talk a little bit about Teen Flight too, because that's a really neat organization. And I've talked to those kids when we've had the show and shines up there.
Yeah, we got into this organization a few years ago with a customer from Oregon, and we were sitting around talking like we are right now about the problems of getting skilled people. And he said, "Here's your answer. You got to start it." And they have, right now there are 56 teen flight organizations in the United States.
Oh, wow.
We have the only one in Canada. And you know, already we've been going for, this is our 5th year, and we've had quite a succession of kids go through it. We have kids now that are talking about getting into engineering, kids that want to be pilots, kids that want to get involved in the structures program. The whole scenario was we work with the school, and the school kind of tries to steer the kids to this program. They get credits in school for it. Then they can, if they desire, they can go to the local college, and then hopefully end up back at my shop.
Well,
That's a
that's
little
good.
selfish, but
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? That's just the way it is. And being innovative and risk takers, you know, what does it mean for you for the future for people? You know, in the old days when we all sort of started our businesses, you could take a bit of risk, but do you think that element still exists where, you know, what has it taught you, I guess, taking the risk? Obviously, you're all successful, but it's taken a bit of time to get there for sure.
Yeah, the risk is just a part of the game. You know, I
Yeah.
think the key is to have a plan B. You know, you don't just think, oh, this looks like a good idea, and dive in with both feet. You know, there's got to be a plan B behind you just in case, and you got to manage the risk, but it's always going to be there. You know, if I didn't build a line boring machine, we'd still be a 4-man machine shop in Campbell River. You know, servicing local customers. So it's part of the game. You can't grow without it.
And George, you've expanded from forestry into other sectors as well, right? As far as your business goes.
Yeah, we have, but forestry still is predominantly our largest segment. So what we did was, rather than just try to be in the forestry market here, we said, okay, the world does forestry. How do we participate in that? So diverse markets as opposed to diverse industries, and that's worked for us.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, gentlemen, it's been great talking to all of you, and certainly appreciate everything that you've done for the community, and the fact that you've, you know, between all of you, I'm sure there's well over a couple hundred people that are employed in this community just because of your efforts, and really appreciate you being here today and sharing your insight with us. And again, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Well, thanks, folks. That's this episode of Insight in Business. I'm Corby Lam, your host, and we look forward to seeing you next time.